We'll move on. Let's talk about time slips. Yes. Now, we've talked about time slips before. We've talked about how people will remember walking into a place and they'll experience like walking into this old tavern and everything is so precisely decorated with the correct decor from like the mid 1800s, and everyone's dressed that way and even talks that way too. And they stay overnight and they have this amazing experience, and then they realize later on after they drive away from that tavern is that, oh my God, that place burned down like 20 years ago and we stayed in a ghost tavern and we must have time slipped.
Yes.
Well, we've heard those stories over and over again. And a lot of people,
just so I clarify, is time slip, is that where they go into a place that's back in time, or did they go back in time?
I think it's undetermined. So I think when it comes to time slips, you slip through time. I think. Not necessarily, but maybe in reverse, that like hypothetically, that tavern from the 1850s slips forward, perhaps. But from the stories that I've read, where there are modern things like cell phones or just mobile phones in general, people who do go into these time slips, their electronics don't work, so they're not connecting to a cell tower. So I think they're actually slipping to a different time.
Interesting. So it's like a hole in time.
Yeah, a time hole.
Well, yeah, time hole. Stay away from that time hole. Don't look at. Oh, you looked in that hole.
No.
Oh, you went and looked in the hole.
What was the movie with Christopher Reeve? Remember this one where he like willed himself to go back in time?
Somewhere in time.
Yeah.
Yes. Somewhere in time.
He sees a picture of a woman from like 100 years ago, and he's so horny for her that he like wills himself to go back in time so he can bang her.
Yeah, he was. I think you gave the correct synopsis of the movie.
That was the official synopsis. I read it right off the poster.
He had Christopher Reeve, aka Superman. What he did, he saw this picture of this woman in a museum, and he saw, oh my God, she lived like 100 years ago. But he became obsessed with this picture. He kept visiting it, probably getting in a giant erection every time he went to go visit this picture. And he's like, "How can I go back in time?"
Had to clean it off every morning.
So his erection was so powerful it defied the laws of physics, and he actually
back in time by his erection.
Teleported himself back in time so he could bang this broad. And that's the movie. It's actually kind of like a sweet movie if you kind of remove that kind of angle from it.
If you ignore 3 scenes.
But he did time travel because of his penis. Absolutely.
Here's a picture of him in the movie. He's suspicious he cannot see his left hand. So he's
look at him.
He's got the stranger going, and he's just looking at that photo.
And he's looking at Christopher Reeve. He's got one arm up against the wall, and we don't know where his other arm is.
What's he doing there?
Yeah.
Look at that guy.
But yeah, he actually time traveled. Well, so he probably slipped through time. It was probably like a time slip, but he willed it. He just didn't stumble into some time hole. He willed it.
Stumble into a time hole.
And the trick that he used is that in order for him to travel through time, he had to dress in the exact garb of the time period that he was traveling to, and he could not take anything from this time period, present time period, with him, or else it would negate his time traveling experience. And that's exactly what happened to him. I'm not going to ruin the movie for you if you guys want to check it out, but he used the power of the mind. He used the brain frog.
Incredible brain frog.
He used the incredible brain frog to travel through time mentally.
And then he fights Hitler. Wait, no, it's a different movie.
Different movie. I think that was a sequel. I think they kind of nixed that one once he became a quadriplegic, but
it's a sequel.
I think
straight to video sequel. It didn't do as well.
I think they're trying to get Daniel Baldwin to finally do that thing. I think
Baldwin.
Yeah, he's looking for work. Can you believe that?
Is he the Baldwin who's unrelated to the other Baldwin, or is he related to the Baldwins?
I think Daniel Baldwin is the born-again Christian.
There's like 7 Baldwins.
There's too many Baldwins. But hey, we got time slips to worry about. Maybe we'll see the Baldwins in this weird, wacky multiverse that we're all living in. You're bound to run into a Baldwin no matter what time period or universe you go to. There's so many of them.
Yeah, there's one within a couple hundred feet of anybody, of you at any given time. So
yeah. Well, this headline is Time Slips, the Multiverse, and You. This comes from Psychology Today. And so as I was reading this article a little bit, I was like, who is Psychology Today? They are a pretty, at least their board of editors and their content generators, they all have PhDs. They all went to very reputable colleges. And it's like, so why are they talking about time slips? As like, they can't be talking about what we just described, but in fact, I think that they are. And here are the key points of this article. The nature of time is one of the biggest mysteries in science. Scientists simply do not understand what time is. The universe has a speed limit called the speed of light, faster than which nothing in our universe can travel. The multiverse theory explains how it could be possible for people to have traveled faster than light speed during time slips. So what Psychology Today is doing is that they're really examining the possibility of time slips. I'm going to read a bit of this because I find it fascinating when you have academics like this start to go down the rabbit hole. We actually saw it. I don't know if I read the article on air, but a few weeks ago, there are psychologists that are actively looking at the alien abduction phenomenon in a serious way. They want to see if that is a product of the mind, like sleep paralysis or some different form of that.
Some sort of like alien slip?
Alien slip, but at least they're taking it serious. And with Psychology Today talking about time slips, we might be opening up a whole different new thing. This might be some sort of bookmark where you should pay attention to this because this might be a whole nother realm that they're trying to launch for the human experience. We'll find out. So the nature of time is one of the biggest mysteries in science. Scientists simply do not understand what time is, at least partially because it does not behave the same way in all circumstances. For example, did you know that clocks installed on an airplane or even further away on satellites record time at a different rate than here on Earth? Did you know that, Gretchen?
Wait. Say the first part of that statement.
For example, did you know clocks installed on airplanes or even further away on satellites record time at a different rate than here on Earth?
No, and that first part sounds like bullshit, which is why I had to reread it. Because why would a clock installed in an airplane or in modern times, everybody has a phone with them? Why would those be recording time differently?
I think she's going to the effect of gravity, and that clocks in higher orbit aren't they traveling faster, and so they're actually like recording time slower, like the clock is moving slower for them.
Well, time is a function of the arc minutes of the angles of the sun traveling across the horizon of the sky. That doesn't change based on altitude.
I guess they're talking about the vibration.
Or do they? Oh, what was the movie? Remember, Chris Christopherson was in a movie in the 80s, and they would take airplanes and travel back in time through airplanes. Remember that one?
Yes, it was called
Millennium. Thank you. Maybe that's what it means. And so, keep getting abducted by Chris Christopherson, thus your clock is wrong.
You can look up that there's an effect where clocks do run. Sync clocks at ground level will fall out of sync when that one clock goes higher in altitude or in orbit.
I have to look it up now.
You got to look up that. But Millennia, that movie, just a sidetrack, there are time travelers who used plane crashes to abduct people. So just before a plane would crash, these time travelers would come into this time period, abduct all the people that were reported to have died, and take them to the future and replace I guess whoever was sitting in their seat with like a skeleton. So when the plane crashed, it's like, oh, all hands on board died. But meanwhile, they were taken through a time hole to the future so they could repopulate civilization.
Time hole.
I speculated something like that could have happened with Missing 411.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah, dimensional travel between like wormholes that would open up between different dimensions and things. Yeah,
you're being taken to the future to repopulate things. But I mean, that's a side instance. But back to time slips. We all know that a physical component that is measured by, we all know that time is a physical component that is measured by clocks. This physical component of time exists because things and people move around in space. The motion of the Earth propels time forward in 24 hours days and 365 days a year. We physically experience time. We experience ourselves and things move around. This is obviously true when you think about different time zones. This isn't the same time in New York as it is in Sydney. Okay, blah, 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 blah.
All right, when you have a second, I did find something on the clocks.
Go for it.
All right. So this is based on what's known as the Half-Lake-Keating experiment, 1971. Physicist and astronomer took 4 cesium beam atomic clocks aboard commercial airliners. They flew twice around the world. This sounds like a scam. Flew twice around the world, first eastward, then westward, and compared the clocks against others that remained at the U.S. Naval Observatory. That's where they run the the atomic clock. When reunited, the 3 sets of clocks were found to disagree with one another, and their differences were consistent with the predictions of special gravity and general relativity. Interesting.
Fuck them.
So basically, the frame of reference in which the clock is not at rest, the clock runs more slowly. This effect, called time dilation, has been confirmed in many tests of special relativity. A clock aboard the plane moving eastward in the direction of the Earth's rotation, and here, this is what you're talking about, had a greater velocity relatively than the one that remained on the ground, while the clock aboard the plane moving westward had a lower velocity. So you get some weird time dilation. That's a cool effect. I want to read into this.
Man.
That's freaking me out, man.
It is pretty fucking crazy. It is really...
That's some
really,
weird shit.
It is pretty crazy stuff. No doubt about that.
So that's the thing about that. The reason that no one sees that now is because all your devices resync with the network when you land. And so everything gets synced back up. And no one
we don't notice it.
You're milliseconds off or something. Probably microseconds.
Oh, man, this
off.
is really freaking me out.
Oh, I'm sorry. They measured this in nanoseconds.
Okay.
So as they went eastward, it was 59 nanoseconds ahead. And as they went westward, they were 273 nanoseconds behind. Interesting.
As this goes on to say, I'm going to get the crux of this. So while time and space are linked, nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. But what about otherwise credible reports made by those who claim to have traveled faster than the speed of light? What about reports of actual time travel? The internet is filled with stories about people insisting they experience jumps in time, which are not merely 1 second per second, but decades or even hundreds of years. These time anomalies or time slips are paranormal episodes during which someone or a group of people somehow experience traveling through time without knowing how or why it occurred. That's the time hole we're talking about here.
Time holes.
In one account in Oklahoma in the 1970s, 3 workers were picking up cattle feeder equipment from a farm and noticed a White House on the property. When they came back next day, however, the house was not only not there, there was no sign of it have ever been there. Yet all 3 workers say they saw the same thing the prior day. One possible explanation, the house had existed in a different moment in time, which they collectively experienced as reality. Whether or not stories like this are to be believed by others, the people who recount them certainly believe them. Given what we know and what we don't know about how time works, how might this happen, or how might these stories happen? One explanation is a credible but controversial scientific theory called Multiverse Theory. The Multiverse Theory proposes that an infinite number of worlds exist along different paths in time which arise out of each passing moment, suggesting that different things happen in different universes. This is interesting. I don't know if they wrote this article because of it, but the new Spider-Man movie is all about the multiverse. And it goes into the multiverse theory and how there is just different flavors of the same character, or like minor differences create a whole new universe. And so that they're writing.
That's the new one where Spider-Man sees a photo of a woman from 100 years ago.
That's a different movie. This is the new Spider-Man movie called No Way Home, which I saw on Saturday, and I gotta say, it was a fantastic movie. I really enjoyed it.
Exactly.
I'll have to think about seeing that one sometime.
I've
seen how many Spider-Man movies are there? There's like 30.
Spider-Man? There's a lot of Spider-Man movies.
Irving Spider-Man.
John Spider-Man. But it was a well done movie and very entertaining, and I had candy. I had a lot of it too.
And I sat there and ate a bunch of candy.
I did. I'm a 44-year-old man who is sitting there eating Reese's and Red Vine licorice like I'm a 12-year-old.
You're mixing. Oh, that's gross. You can't do like.
I didn't do them at the same time.
Oh, okay.
I did licorice first, and then I moved on to my Reese's.
You just had one in each hand, and
I was like, shove it, inject it, give it to me.
Do it all. Give it to me.
I was gonna say you could just take a bag of sugar and a spoon if you want that.
Okay.
Inject it. Put it in me.
So the multiverse theory. So it not only sounds preposterous, but also it sounds not only preposterous, but also like a lot of work for the universe. Imagine a new universe traveling along its own unique timeline created out of every moment of time. This theory suggests that there may be an infinite number of universes. It also explains how time slips might be real. Support for the multiverse theory comes from an arcane but scientifically valid Big Bang theory called cosmic inflation. Cosmic inflation refers to a faster-than-light expansion of the universe that may be responsible for spawning an unlimited number of disconnected universes that are eternally, eternally issue. I'm not sure how this is phrased. Universes that eternally issue from one another. I don't know what this means.
That means they're constantly expanding from within each other, so they issue from one to the other. So.
Okay, eternally issue from one another. So I guess they're not colliding into one another.
Issue also generally refers to breeding and having children, so your issue would be your children. Anyway.
Okay. Cosmic inflation may have happened because during the earliest instance of formation, the universe was expanding outward from a single point into nothingness. So whether or not the multiverse, cosmic inflation, or an infinite number of disconnected universes eternally branching off from one another is the way time works remains to be proven by scientists. But theories are intriguing, and they solve for at least one famous problem scientists have with time travel: the grandfather paradox. So this multiverse theory says you can travel back in time and have sex with your grandfather, and it will not impact you because you're actually traveling back in time to a parallel dimension or parallel universe where you can do anything you want to your grandfather there. You could.
I thought, to be fair, Mike, if you go back in time and have sex with your grandfather, I don't think there's going to be kids involved.
The odds aren't good. Yeah,
but I'm going to keep trying.
The odds aren't good that you're going to do it, but
that's what I do.
But I mean, that's how you get around the grandfather paradox is with the multiverse, is that you can go back in time and do stuff, but it's not really your time. It is a very similar time, and I guess you can go back there and kill your grandfather and take over his place and live his life if you so choose, but you're living in that parallel, so everything might be just a little bit off. But they go into this kind of thing also in the TV show The Man in the High Castle, where it's a parallel universe in which the Nazi, the Third Reich, won and dominated pretty much the East Coast of the United States and all of Europe. Fascinating TV show to watch.
It's a book by Philip K. Dick on that. So,
the book is. I found it to be a little hard to read, but it's good. His stuff is just good in general.
There was also an episode of what's the name of that show? Futurama, where they go back in time and interacts with his own grandparents. It's a well-known trope in fiction.
So yeah, it goes on to say that the multiverse theory solves for the paradox in that you could kill a copy of your grandfather in an alternate universe, and therefore you would still have been born. So you're like I said, you're traveling back in time, and you're killing somebody who, by all accounts, looks exactly like your grandfather, but he's not really your grandfather. So kill all the old people you want back in time. They don't care.
So don't look at pictures of your grandparents and get really horny to go back in time and shoot them. Or no, I guess you can, right?
You can do it, according to this new theory. So this is from Psychology Today. I found it to be interesting just because they chose to write about this kind of thing and not kind of write it off like a time slip. They didn't write off time holes in a glib way. They're like, it could be possible.
But why, if they were going to write this article in Psychology Today, why wouldn't they title it Psychology Yesterday?
I don't know. Or Psychology in the Future.
Psychology
or something.
Tomorrow.
Psychology Time. I don't know.
Psychology Hole. That's what
Psychology Hole. But there it is. There's some time slips, and it's gaining traction, people. Gaining traction.
Give us an email at ourbigdumbmouth@gmail.com. Check out obdmpod.com for all the social media and donation links. Be a part of the magic.